branding and social causes. That is something that I'm finding very common in branding, and I want to understand it a little bit more. Um, there is that aspect of branding and social causes, and there is also that question of branding and conversations with the audience. I've already tried to research in regard to having conversations with an audience of a brand. I want to understand that a little bit deeper. And then there is the issue of branding and social causes. I find it interesting. I don't know if I can call it serendipity, or I don't know that. Like, look, I'm an activist. I'm a community organizer. That's my first passion. That's what I've always wanted to do. And then I had this thing challenge, uh, recurring challenge with social movement, where there was always a problem of resource mobilization. And in cases like, if we were to look back in the history of Kenya, past social movements were broken when donor funding came into the social movement. So there is also the need to have social movement organically funded or resourced by the people that they are fighting for. So I had that. Now I have my passion, I have this challenge, and now I'm finding out that in starting a brand, one of the things that I need to connect properly with my brand is social causes. And that's the easiest one for me to do, because that's my first work, my first job. So it's very interesting to find something that requires my first passion as a prerequisite of success. And I am excited about that. I have no problem with finding a social cause or finding a good reason to associate the brand with. I've already found that, and I'm associating it with my activism, my community organizing, something that I've been doing for over 20 years now. So I'm happy about that, and I am happy that in building a brand and in this journey of building a brand, and in the journey, in my journey of activism and community organizing, we have two things. They have different names, but it's the departure point that is this I don't want to call it the standard usage, the prerequisite, the needed you. Okay, let's start all over. In branding, there's something they call empathy. Like, in starting your branding story and in all that, that you start from a point of empathy, that you want to feel what your audience feels, and you want to be in your audience shoes. Then, in organizing, my first passion, my first love, there is something called humanization. Like, even if you go to my Twitter handle, there's something I call the Humanization Project. That is what I am in this world to do, to humanize people, especially the most vulnerable, because at some point, people are vulnerable and they are in positions of vulnerable, the people who oppress them at some point start seeing them as half human, like they are not complete human, deserving of all the rights and the dignities and, the freedoms that everyone else deserves. So I have always been on the humanization project of people, of the most vulnerable, of the weakest um, in society and all that. And now, as I set off in trying to begin a brand and in trying to set up a brand, I find out that in branding, one of the most important prerequisite of any campaign is the centering of empathy. So, yeah, I think these are two worlds and two truths that I find interesting, and that I find that having them exist in both worlds means there is something about the centering of the human, the centering of life, human life, so to speak. Yes, a human body, there is that respect, that dignity of a human, or the embodiment of a human, but there is also the life that they get to live or have to live. What are we doing about that? You know? And so the brand is going to solve so many questions, and I am glad that in answering so many questions, it also mirrors the world that I am coming from. I'm happy about